Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and kick things off. Robin Daniels,
Hey, how's it
Peter
going?
Carson.
Hey, Peter.
We're doing this personal. We're actually
I
in
know.
your kitchen.
Well, because you're visiting Europe, I'm like, let's do it live together.
This is great, and what a great view. You were just saying you can actually see Sweden
Yeah,
across the waters over there. So welcome here.
Thank you.
And we're going to chat about a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But why don't we start just with sort of high level agenda and an overview of what we want to go through. Do some intros. I'll talk a bit about the Extranet User Manager side of things.
That's good.
Talk about Zensai. Still getting that to roll off the tongue.
Sure.
And go from there. So here, why don't I share my screen
Yeah,
up here?
that sounds,
I'm just going to
that
share a
sounds
couple
great.
of these
That sounds
slides.
great. No, and thank you for coming all this way to do this live. I know you're in Europe anyway, and it's just more fun to do these live. It's very rare nowadays to get a chance to actually in the same room together, so this is great.
So I was in Brussels for EPTC, which was last week, and next week I'm going to be in the UK for Comsverse. Speaking of both of them, we got booths at both of them, so excited about that. It's like, what do we do for that?
I was in the UK last week. I was keynoting at the Festival of Work, which is I think one of the largest.
What you're saying, huge.
Yeah, it's 12,000 people. I was speaking about this very topic we're going to talk about today, really about how do you unleash like the full potential of people, like this idea that it's about culture and mindset and the right platforms and tools, because it's a lot of things that goes into actually unleashing, I think, people's full potential. In my experience, it's not just about one thing; it's about lots of different things, and we can get into what all those things are today. But it was a great event, though. It's a great event.
Actually, let's keep it conversational and just dive right into it, because people know who we are.
Yeah. I like it.
I mean, human success is the real catchphrase for Zensai, and I love the concept, which is how do you make your workforce more successful?
Yes.
And then our partnership is really how do we extend that?
True.
Whether it's out to even the frontline workers that may be part of the organization but aren't really because they're not licensed as part of the Microsoft 365, or more broadly into the external. How do you get into your partners and your vendors, your customers, even to citizens? Some of our biggest projects we have together is actually public sector, like state level government, out to citizens, and how do you make those people successful? Obviously, LMS and now we're on 365 is a big part of that.
That's right.
But the platform is bigger than that. So why don't you?
Yeah. No, it's exactly right. I think the reason we were talking about human success is let's take a step back. My career has really been in the sphere of joining companies that were disrupting big markets, where there was a big pain. Salesforce, Box, LinkedIn, WeWork. I spent most of my career trying to really think about not just wanting to sell something that's kind of a small thing, but really find these big issues in the world and whatever that issue is, and say, okay, there has to be a better way. Did that with Salesforce and Box and LinkedIn and so on. Like just this idea that we can always 10x conversation and create momentum in a category. And just like create something bigger, especially when you see that whatever we're doing is not really working. And so this idea of human success came from the fact that no matter what data you look at in the market, whether that's from Gallup or Forbes or Josh Bersin or whoever it is who's kind of studying this, and they kind of all say the same thing, that most people are disillusioned, they're unhappy, they feel stuck in their jobs, they feel like nobody's investing in their growth, their learning, their potential, and so on. And we said, well, whatever we've been doing from an HR perspective for the last 10, 20, 50 years or so, obviously, if we've been solving that, something is not working, because the trend, actually, if you look at the data, I just saw it from Gallup recently, the latest state of workplace report, the trend is going in the opposite direction. It's now 70% of people are unhappy. And so I just think there has to be a better way. How do we create an environment and a movement around this idea that investing in people is the best thing you can do for them, but also for your business? It can't be one or the other. This idea that we're just focusing on growth and profitability and so on, but the people are miserable. That doesn't work. And this idea that we're providing free kombucha to people and pizza nights and ping pong tables and people are happy, but business suffers, that's not success either. Nowadays, you really have to look at the interlock of how people and businesses are interconnected. You have to figure out this balance of how do you give people the opportunity to be the best version of themselves, because when you do that with mentorship and knowledge and coaching and in the right environment, those people, all the data bears this out, show up every day, provide better ideas, better momentum, and those companies see higher levels of profitability and productivity than any other in their cohort. And so it's so obvious, and what I'm saying is kind of preaching to the choir in some ways. And when I tell this to people, like, yeah, they go, well, You know,
They get it,
they
but
get
they
it,
really
but
get
how do you actually make it happen?
Yeah.
This is where I think this idea of human success comes in. Like, it's not about HR anymore, because HR is really kind of covering the basics of what people need. You know, payroll, making sure they get paid, making sure they take their vacations and all that stuff. Really important, not going away. But we also know this is not enough to provide motivation for you to do the best work of your life every day just to get paid. So how do you invest in people? How do you give them the right opportunities to grow and scale and learn? Think about your life. You're a successful person. You're a CEO of a very successful company. I'm sure you've gotten to where you are in your life because lots of people have invested in you, given you the opportunities for growth, for learning, for development, whether I was a teacher, a parent, a sibling, a coworker.
We all need mentors.
And I want to be that platform that does that for people at the right time, at the right moment, with the right knowledge and skills and mentorship, so people could become what they aim to be in life. Because that makes them more happy, which again leads to their companies that they work for more
Well, it's so
successful.
important. Like I gave a talk on people search at a number of conferences recently.
Yeah.
And tacit knowledge, like the knowledge that's in people's heads,
Yeah.
is about 80% of the organizational knowledge.
Right.
Like, I try and document it and write down processes and capture knowledge. But at the end of the day, it's in those heads. So and you're investing in those people, and you know, you've got churn in your organization because people are not happy and they're leaving.
Yeah.
That knowledge is going out the door. So like how do you improve the knowledge of the people that you have, but also how do you make sure that they're successful and happy and sticking with you?
And it's not an easy thing because it's not just about the platform. It's about leadership and the right policies and thinking really methodically, I think, about how do you provide this environment in a way that's suitable for the individual, because I think every individual has different aspirations in life, and depending on your life stage, your age, your experience, all kinds of things, so many things that go in. So you can't also treat everyone the same way, I don't think, because I think that doesn't lead to success either. So it's about finding the opportunities to invest in people, to nudge them towards a better future somehow. And I think that again, when I was telling you the story earlier, when I was 21, I bought a one-way ticket to California from Denmark, and you know, I found a job after a lot of hustling, and this woman I was working for, and her name was Elise Zimmerman. She was the VP of marketing. I got hired as the web programmer, but she saw something in me, and she kind of took me under her wing, and she kind of developed me and said I should be in product marketing. I'm like, I don't really know what that is, but she kind of taught me what that was all about. And she saw something in me, and I think nowadays you still have to have people do that for you, but I think you can also, of course, now with technology, help insert those moments as well, based on, let's say, if you're doing a self-assessment for yourself, and maybe in your team every week, every month, or so on, based on that over time, I'm sure we can get signals that can say, you know what, Peter would be really good in this kind of role, right? Because he has these skills and gets this feedback and so on. And the combination of, I think, human instinct with technology is a very powerful combination, which is why I think where our interlock really comes in, and where our partnership is so strong as well.
Yeah, and it's challenging because the workforce has changed. Like COVID has forever changed what's happening. And my kids are a little bit older than yours. Yours is just going off to university, but you know, he's going to be entering a workforce much like my kids did through that COVID time, where that mentorship and peers and community at work is very different. You know, trying to get staff back, and we were talking about being digital online, so that's sounds fun, but you don't build those connections with other people, and that's so important. So you know, that can only go so far. How do you build those? Yeah.
I mean, you started your company how long ago now?
Can I say 36 years ago?
Yeah.
A long time ago.
I think about like the people who probably stuck with you on that journey. It's probably because they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. It's not just about the job, right? It's about being part of a family. It's like, because you're investing in each other, you learn as much from them as they learn from you, hopefully, and it becomes a very like healthy relationship, I would say, right? And this is what I'm wondering, especially for the new generation. Like you said, how do you provide that for them? It's so obvious that they're hungry for this, right? And they did a survey on my or a poll on my LinkedIn a few weeks ago, asking how often do you want to get feedback on your performance, and do you want it yearly, quarterly, monthly, or weekly? And 70% or so said either weekly or monthly.
Long.
So but this is where a lot of companies are so stuck. Like they get your annual performance review, and then it's this idea that of course now I'm gonna tell you all the things from this year. You know, you did well or not well, and like, how am I supposed to remember that? I don't know what I had for dinner 2 days ago. You know, it's like, And so this idea of real-time coaching, real-time mentorship, giving people the knowledge and skills they need, the right learning and the right paths in the moment is really where the world needs to go to. And we want to be, coming back to this idea of humans, we want to be the platform that stands for that nudges people in the right direction based on what we know about. That's also why you know technology well, but the more we know about it, the more data you input into this, or the more you use it, the more signals we can pick up that could say, oh, wow, maybe you should take this course on public speaking, or maybe you should take this course on project management, and we can put you on a path to get the better skills based on what we know about you. And of course, a mentor can do that same thing, but a platform can also do that.
Well, we were chatting before, we got to bring the AI side.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Yeah, of course.
But that's the perfect kind of thing to take data like that and say, hey, how can we make suggestions and coaching back? Yes, it's your mentor and your who you're reporting to's job, but how can technology help that as well? I mean, Microsoft talks Copilot all the time. It kind of drives me crazy, but I do like the word because it's.
I do too.
It's not autopilot.
No.
I have a Tesla. My wife refuses to get in it if I'm going to use the autopilot on it.
My wife is exactly the same. She's like, it's crap. It's crap.
It'll crash.
Yeah, I have one too. Like all day.
But Copilot is like, hey, I'll be there to help you.
But we love Tesla. Just say that. Yes.
The idea that it's there to support you.
Yes.
Like AI is not something that you can just blindly trust.
No.
You have to take it with a grain of salt to say, hey, this is cool. And you've maybe brought some insights that I wasn't aware of, but I need to fact check and look at citations and understand how that's working from that point.
Well, I spent most of my career in go-to-market, being a chief marketing officer for several companies, and I think it's the genius move what Microsoft had done with the labeling of Copilot, because it sounds friendly, something that's just on your side. I actually think there's a higher trust in the words Copilot versus AI. AI sounds exciting, but a little scary, a little nebulous, like what is it happening behind the scenes? Copilot sounds like this friend that's helping you out. I think actually it's a genius move, and I think it's a right way of actually labeling it, but also making it useful for people, because it's this thing that's not taking away what you're doing, it's just kind of nudging you in the right direction.
Clippy improved. That's
I do know Clippy. That's a throwback right there.
I mean, you've done some cool things in Zensai from an AI point of view. And it's not just content creation, but it's content suggestion and direction and stuff like that. Maybe talk a bit about.
Yeah. I mean, we think of it this way. So the core audience for Zensai, which used to be LMS 365, now Zensai since April, because we really realized that we had to evolve the name of the company, because we're not just selling one product anymore. We're offering multiple products. And the ambition that we have is much bigger than being a learning platform. We want to be that plus much more. So we are thinking about how can we infuse AI into every part of the experience, learning, performance management, employee engagement, to make the whole better. So from a learning perspective, we think of it from three audiences, basically. There's the learner itself. How do we get the learner, the employee in a company, on a path where they get the right skills at the right time to become the best version of themselves? Meaning, can we insert learning paths for them based on what we know about you, so we can push you in the right direction? Let's say, I want to be the head of customer success one day. Here's the path you need to take. Here are the courses you need to take. Here are the people you should be connecting with. Here are the skills you need to get, and so on, in order to one day. Maybe that's 3 years, 5, maybe it's 10 years, depending on where you are in your stage. So we think of a lot of it from a learner perspective. How do we use AI to get people on the path that they need? So that's number one. Number two, we think about from a L&D manager, learning and development manager, or an HR director. How do we give them the tools they need to simplify their jobs, to make their job? They spend a lot of time creating courses, trying to remind people to take courses and so on, right? There's a lot of admin that goes into this. And the data shows that, it is complicated and time consuming to create courses. So we think a lot about how do we make it simpler to create courses based on the information you have, or maybe information that's out there that's trusted on the internet.
And content creation is a great example for AI. It's fantastic, whether we're building a presentation or Word document.
We with this, right? Like, because it's so great because it can synthesize data in a way. There's a lot of things I think AI still needs to mature on, but this is one where AI is amazing. You could say, here, point to this document, this video, and based on that, create a course that's 10 minutes long with 3 questions at the end. And AI can do it like that, or come up with 3 questions and a little quiz here, and AI is great
I mean, summarization, we actually record every meeting we do now, basically to get the Copilot recap at the end. Okay, what are the action items? It's really good. And I can see how it can be the same from a.
But think about it, if you then took all that data that you collected over a year, for example, put it into some model and sped out, okay, like what are we doing well in meetings? What are we not doing well in meetings? What can we improve? All this stuff, right? But anyway, so we think a lot about also from a learner perspective, also from a L&D perspective, how can we make their life easier? And then finally, we think from a business perspective, you might call it an admin or a business executive, but how do you give them the knowledge of how the organization is doing? What skills do we lack? Who's doing well in some areas? Who's not doing so well? How do we push people or nudge people to doing a better work towards the right direction and so on? So there's lots of different audiences, and we think from them it's all about the business justification, the business visibility into what's happening. Everyone's thinking about workforce planning as an example. How do we create the workforce for the future? How do we optimize who we have, what they work on, and so on? I think AI can really help with that because it can give you the knowledge and insights into what's actually happening with the team based on how they're learning or engaging and so on.
Right.
Yeah. Have you seen something similar?
Well, our journey is all about our tagline as an organization is actually we make Microsoft simple, which I know is lofty. Unachievable, but it's still something to aspire to from that point of view. And as organizations, I mean, we've made the same decision, which is we've hitched our horse to Microsoft 365. For better, for worse, it does a ton. There's a fantastic amount of functionality there, but sometimes it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, agree.
So from a user experience point of view, how do we make that simpler? And particularly when you think about learning and education and such, I mean, that's where our two products fit well together because our scenario is all about those external people. We were talking about the NHS Mayorside case study that we both have up on our website. It's a great example of you've got 25,000 people from about a dozen different healthcare organizations that all need to get access to learning and training. How do we onboard those people? Maybe they can use their organizational IDs. In that case, they can. In other cases, maybe they don't even have an organizational email. Maybe they just want to use their SMS phone number. So we built functionality to make that simple and onboard those people simply so they can get in and do that. And once they're there, how do they get into the training that they need? And again, make that super simple. Like you've got your mobile app that can do that. You've got some interesting things coming there. And that's a key thing for us. One of the things we found with that is, part of user experience is performance. If a website doesn't work well, it's a bad user experience. And we under the hood use the graph and we access the Microsoft stuff directly as part of that. Doesn't always perform. So we've spent the last 10 months or so actually bringing Azure AI Search, which is part of the Microsoft AI family, right into our product. So we pull all of the data about all the learners, all the people, the organization, even the content into AI Search. Because if you think about Copilot,
how does that work? Can you show it?
Let's actually pull some of this stuff up.
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
So here, let me share my screen now.
Because that's really interesting. Pulling all this data from all these different sources into a unified search.
Well, it's actually the key to a strong large language model. So let me just flip way ahead through the deck here for a second. Position properly.
Yeah, of course. Because I mean, when I think about the companies that I've either worked for or engaged with, so often it's about finding the right information. Right? It's like this, especially as an organization balloons. It's like where? It's like all these silos pop up.
I don't know where to find it. I mean, if you think about going to ChatGPT and asking a question, what is it doing? Well, it's actually doing searches first. And then it's taking the response of those and putting it in the large language model and building a response. The same way Copilot works. And Copilot does it privately, so it's just your data. So on the right side of the diagram here, this Azure AI Search is what we're feeding all of this data into. To say, hey, let's crawl all the people within your organization, all of your external people, your partners, your customers, vendors that you've set up, say for training or just to get into a customer portal or a partner portal or what have you. Push all that into AI Search. And we're hooked in so that live as changes happen under the hood in Microsoft, it just feeds right into that AI Search index. And we haven't lit it up in the product. This is sort of further down our roadmap, is to bring the OpenAI stuff in to say, hey, let's have the natural language interface to that. Until you have the search there, you can't do the other part. We've done some POCs. It's pretty cool to be able to just ask a question, hey, who has these skills? I mean, I was showing you this the other day in your office where we're actually pulling Learn 365 data through our Extranet User Manager into AI search, so that I can come to a people search. Because you think back to that, 80% of knowledge is in people's heads. Well, how do you find those people? I mean, this is an early version that's up on our live website that people can go to. I have another version here that's our current development version. So this, yes, we only have 25 people in our organization. Actually, I go out. We've actually created a fake organization of several hundred people called Winchelsea.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of it.
Anybody who's done Microsoft stuff has probably done that. But we have a whole bunch of AI generated data as part of that. But we were able to take things like skills that you were talking about, tracking and having your manager report on that and work with that. Oh, I think I've just left this time out for too long here.
No, we think a lot about how do we surface skills, right? And we've implemented some recent like skills mapping in our products that kind of gives, again, an admin or a business leader the sense of where somebody's skills are, so we can guide that person towards a better path for them to gain those skills that they might be lacking.
Right.
Again, just trying to be as helpful or as much of a co-pilot as possible.
Yes. But the challenge is there's always a privacy side to it as well.
Of course.
Yeah. We're in Europe. Maybe not Germany, but privacy is very important. Rightly so. People need to decide what should go in there and what shouldn't. So I pulled skills data from Learn 365, and one of the skills we actually had was Learn 365 itself. So I marked that as a skill for myself in Learn 365, and it comes up as part of my profile, so you can search people and bring them up from there. One of the challenges that I find with things like this, like you could do this in Delve is disappearing, but they're actually thinking about what's version 2 of profile management. When you ask people to come in and fill this information in, nobody ever does it. Because it doesn't help you, it helps somebody else. If enough people do it, then you'll see benefit, but it's the classic problem with the comments. Nobody wants to contribute because it's not going to help them back. So how do we pull that data? So if we can reasonably pull it without crossing the privacy boundaries.
And how would you suggest doing that then?
I think I talked with Thomas, who's part of the US team, about this a lot, and we decided, why don't we let the learning and development people tag skills and courses that they feel is appropriate for anybody else to discover about somebody. And maybe it's not every skill and maybe not every course that they've taken, but there's some that do make sense. Like you kind of want to know who's had CPR training if somebody's on the floor and he's constant. Maybe you're not going to do a people search in that case, but nevertheless, so that idea of not necessarily pulling all the data that's in Learn 365 in, but let a learning and development person curate it. The alternative is to let each individual person opt in and share it. But again, we're back to that challenge that most people won't do value of it from that point of view. We've been trying to figure out the LinkedIn side because there's a treasure trove of public profile stuff there. You've worked there.
It's very touchy, I would say, but it's also I totally get, like you said, it's about people's privacy and they take privacy and trust very seriously. We would always do these trust indexes at LinkedIn. It's by far the most trusted brand in the social sphere and social sphere, right? Versus Facebook, Twitter, you name it, or X now and so on. Because it's people's real identities and there's a lot of sensitive information there as well. So I get it.
Microsoft spent $45 billion to 10 years ago, and they're just saving tiny bits of innovation in there.
It's true.
I'd like to see from a profile point of view, if we're on a page like this, to say, hey, make it easy for me to say, hey, I'm just going to sign into LinkedIn and pull my profile picture and stuff in and just drop it in.
But that's actually it's a good story. I think it comes back to the theme of what we're talking about, this idea of unleashing people's potential. So when Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, LinkedIn was maybe 10,000 people or so. Microsoft, a huge company, and normally what happens when a big company buys a little company, the little company kind of gets subsumed by the big company, and then they lose their identity over time. Which a couple of years later, nobody knows that company even exists anymore. Yeah. And such as credit, and I think he's one of the most brilliant CEOs of our time.
Huge fan.
Very, very huge fan as well. He kind of saw it differently as this growth mindset that he's always talks about. And he really demonstrated that. He said, well, I don't want you to become like Microsoft. I want Microsoft to be more like you. We admire your spirit around innovation, your culture. We want to learn from you. You should not be learning from us. Not that they weren't doing things right. Obviously they are. But this idea that he's always open to new ideas, and then really meant that the LinkedIn culture was kept very separate, at least until, I mean, when I was there a couple of years ago. But I assume it still has its own identity, its own buildings, and so on. Because the way they do build products and so on is very different than how Microsoft does it. Doesn't mean you can't start integrating and so on. But I love this idea because it basically comes back to this idea that human potential and human success is all around, can you continue learning actually? And that becomes, just because you're CEO of one of the biggest companies in the world doesn't mean you can't get better or learn new things, right?
Which I love about Zensai.
Exactly, right?
You know, the whole switch to open source.
Yes.
And other.
I mean, the moves that he's made, I mean, he's like the ultimate tech gangster. I like in a good way. It's like, wow, he's impressive, you know, with OpenAI and LinkedIn and GitHub and you name it, you know, it's like really impressive moves. Yeah, really impressive moves. Right?
Yeah.
But I think that comes from a lot from this idea of being open to growth from new places.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's we've kind of skipped over all of the stuff in here. Is there particular points that you want to come back to?
Well, I mean, look, if we come back to the kind of the idea of human success, you know, what we think about a lot goes into. So we think about an employee journey. Employee's journey is they spend weeks, maybe months, interviewing with the company. I mean, you hire people, you have 25 people. I'm sure you've had some turnover, maybe not a lot, but you've hired people over time. And you spend weeks or months trying to find the right people, as most companies do. And then those people are oftentimes with you for years, maybe even decades. I don't know if you have any employees who've been with you. Yeah, amazing. It says a lot about you and your culture. We have a few people at our company who've been with us for over a decade as well. And when you think about what most companies do in that time when people are with you years or decades, how little actually companies invest in their growth or potential, it's kind of shocking. And when I go around and I ask HR leaders this, or even business leaders, you know, I was speaking to somebody at JP Morgan just a few weeks ago, and a very senior person, and I asked, he said, I've been there 6 years now. I said, great. I know you're obviously having success. And so I'm like, what has the company done to invest in your growth and like learning and stuff? Like, nothing. He's good. I mean, he's self-motivated, so you get a lot about self-motivation. And it's just like, and I get this answer all the time. And I'm like, wow, okay, so what happens then if you have somebody who's not as self-motivated? Like, and you need people as support, like coming back to this notion that everyone is where they are in their life. I'm sure this guy I was talking to as well is successful because he's had people believe in him, pushing him around. How can we create this for everyone? How can we democratize success and learning and growth for everyone? So we can lift up everyone in society. Because if I take a step back, the reason I'm so passionate about it is because an organization is just a collection of people trying to solve challenges, sometimes small, mundane challenges, and sometimes really big ones. And if you want those people to show up every day and be fired up, motivated, excited to do so, you got to give them every opportunity to succeed. That's your job as the company, as a leader, to do so. And when it doesn't happen, do you think those people, those 70% who are showing up and not motivated, are they doing the best work of their lives? Are they providing the best ideas that they can? I don't think so. I don't know for sure, but I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. The moment something better comes along, right? And so I know it's like kind of like when Microsoft said back in, I don't know if it's the 80s they said this, but their vision is to put a computer in every home, right? So that's it's like
at everyone's fingertips.
It's like it's so bold and ambitious. And I'm like, wow, this is, and even if they only got 10% of that way, it's still an amazing achievement. And think about where we are now, you know, nearly 50 years later. And for us, we think of it, well, we're only happy when every HR team has changed their name to Human Success. And they've taken the stance that they want to do everything they can to invest in the potential and growth of their people. That's why just a few months ago, we hired the world's first Chief Human Success Officer. Her name is Nina. She's got a lot of experience from HR, but she also was an entrepreneur. She created her own company. This combination of the tenacity, the growth mindset, the ability to see business opportunities. So she also has a bigger voice. It's not just about, because HR has oftentimes been limited to just looking after people, but people and business has to be integrated. And so we hired her because like, we want to be our own best use case for human success. We want to show that we can do it. So we're not perfect. There's a lot of things we can do better as well. Trust me. But this idea that we should be our own best use case, because how else are we going to go talk to other companies around how to do this with the right frameworks, playbooks, mindset, guides, and all this stuff. And we want to be able to show that we can do it ourselves. And it provides an environment where we're outperforming everybody else because of this.
maybe not the best phrase, but Microsoft loves to call it eat your own dog food.
Yeah.
Eat your own technology, but I like it more on human success side. Say, hey,
Drink your own champagne is a better version of that I've heard. You know, it's like, yes, sounds better. I'd rather have champagne than dog food. Yeah.
cool. I haven't been paying attention to the chat. I don't know if we've got, you threw it out on LinkedIn yesterday to say,
I
hey,
did,
you
yeah.
know, if anybody's got a question, let's see.
I like how we look like news anchors here with our laptops. Let's see if we have any questions here. So
I don't know, Copilot wants me to summarize the video. I think we're good on the that side.
that's great.
But we're right at the bottom of the hour. So this was awesome. And thank you so much for opening your home and
For sure.
having the conversation.
It's great to see you. Welcome to here, and thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.